How's everybody?
Hey, good. How you doing, Mike?
Good. Good to see you. Long time no see, Chuck.
Really?
Hour ago.
Yeah.
Hey, Chief. Diane, there's John. Jim Clark won't be on with us tonight. He's out of town. We've got Scott. Waiting on Art. Who else are we waiting on? Art and Bob?
Yeah.
Chief, your image is quite dark. Is there a way to brighten your face a little bit?
Yeah, let me try a different room.
Okay.
I'm really bright. I usually have the window light through here, but did you get a hold of George? Andy?
Yes, I did send him an email and John sent him the link. So see if I got a reply back.
Mike Anderson thought we were having an in-person meeting. He showed up at City Hall. So he's going to run back and jump on. That's better, Chief.
John Kane, have you heard anything back from George? I didn't get a reply to my email this morning.
I have not either. I haven't seen him select or accept the meeting as well. So
Okay. Mayor, it looks like we're going to have one more meeting later this week to talk about this first agenda item. So we can, anything that comes up, if he's not on the line, we can take back to that meeting from council.
We're going to give, we're still waiting on Art and Bob. So we're going to give a few more minutes. Hey, John, is Art and Bob trying to get on, or can you tell?
they shouldn't need my permission and they haven't tried to log on as of yet. Let me look here and see if I can.
There's Scott. We got John Curtis. All we're waiting on is still Bob and
Yeah, I was figuring you might have an issue, so I was gonna see if there's anything I can help with.
Oh, there's Art. Hey, Art, how are you? You're on mute, Art.
There we go. How's that?
There you
I sent
go.
it to Jan.
Hi. Sorry for being late, gentlemen. I apologize.
No problem. We're still waiting on Bob.
Okay.
You did get the link, right, Mike? I see you on.
What do you have the ID as?
Sure did.
Sorry, I didn't make it more clear that we're still not meeting in person yet.
Yeah, City Hall's locked up pretty tight. I can confirm that.
Oh, no worries. Do you want me to send it again and just make sure that everything's copied over right, or?
Are you talking about
Okay,
oh, you're
yeah.
talking-
Yeah, I'm sending it right now. Okay,
You're on mute now, John.
Bob had some technical difficulties. He's trying to log in right now. It should be about a minute or two here.
Funny, when I look in my mirror at home, I have more hair, but on this thing I don't. So I don't know what that's all about, guys.
I think it happens to all of us, Art.
Is that
I could get you guys a filter that'll just give you, whatever kind of haircut you want.
there you go.
Funny, yeah.
We all need makeup artists before we go on.
Yes.
Lots and lots of it.
Hey, John, we should have a little fun one of these meetings and give everybody a different background of their choosing.
Oh, that'd be fun. We should do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually Mike Anderson he's sitting on the beach somewhere.
Huh.
He's sitting there when I was like, how'd you do that? I had the palm trees waving and all right, still waiting on Bob. There's Bob. All right, I think we have everybody on now. Councilman Clark will not be with us tonight. He let me know earlier last week that he wouldn't be on. What I want to do is we've got a few things on our work session, but I want to start out. So Mike Anderson is on with us. For those of you that don't know Mike Anderson, he is a resident here in Idaho Springs for as far as I know, all of his life, or most of his life. And he's also a professional firefighter. And a few years ago, I asked Mike, Gene Day was our other representative from Idaho Springs. We get two on the board. So myself and Gene Day was on it. And Gene had been doing it for about 10 years. And I asked Gene if I had somebody else that would be interested in being on the board and replace him, would he be okay with it? And he said, who? And I said, Mike Anderson. And it took him about a quarter of a second to say, absolutely. Thank you very much for getting me out of it. And so Mike Anderson has been on the fire. Mike, what, almost 3 years now with us?
Yeah, I think about that. Yeah.
Okay. And what we do is we have a meeting once a month with the fire authority, and we direct that organization and entertain different ways of doing business and making sure that our community is protected and safe. And over about the last year and a half, Mike and I have talked, and the question always comes up, are we getting, and Andy also, I have, since Andy's fire background, are we getting the response time with our fire authority that we deserve? We are the biggest municipality in the county. Station 1 is up in Dumont, and we do not house anybody here in Idaho Springs fire house. I believe that is very problematic, where if something happened here, the response time to get somebody to the firehouse in a truck and to a call, we're really concerned about what could happen, especially, you know, in our downtown area. If a building downtown caught on fire, we lose the whole downtown. They had a fire up in Georgetown a few weeks ago, and the response from there, they had somebody stationed in that firehouse, and they were there within minutes to put that fire out, and it wasn't a total loss to the downtown. So what we've been talking about, what Kelly Babian has presented to us, and this hasn't been done with the fire authority. The fire authority consists of some paid staff in the leadership, and then the rest of it is all volunteer. As you know, over many years, volunteers for anything are hard to come by. People's lives are too busy. They don't have time, and they couldn't be committed to doing what we needed to do. Now that with the COVID-19 epidemic happening, it's even gotten worse. So we started talking amongst the fire authority board and leadership about how it would look if we could afford to have enough paid staff on that we would have 24/7 coverage in all of our immediate fire stations, including Idaho Springs. I think that, and Mike I believe feels the same way, that this is a good idea. Mike has been a part of the volunteer fire department. He's also a member of Mike, give just a little short background on what you do and what you've done with Clear Creek and EMS and fire, please.
Yeah, I started with Clear Creek Fire in 1995, right after high school, and I was actually busy in high school taking classes for firefighting. So I spent 20 years as a firefighter, and now I've been on the board for about three years or so. And like Mary Hemming said, I am a firefighter down in the Denver metro area in Broomfield right now. So I think I understand the response in Clear Creek, and I've been part of it, and I know it's difficult. So I don't know what else you want to know about me.
Well, and your association with EMS also.
That's right. I do still work for Clear Creek EMS, which is a county department. As an EMT, I was a paramedic up until last year. And so I've been involved with that organization for about 24 years now.
All right, thanks, Mike. So Mike has an understanding of what's going on in our community, what's happened in the past, and has a good idea of how we should be moving forward. And I believe that we've got the board and the representatives of the other municipalities, along with the ESD, the Emergency Service District, which is the county. And we're looking at a way to be able to bring on paid staff to give us 24/7 coverage. Now, the fire authority, the city contributes, and all the municipalities and the ESD contributes to this organization for it. That's how we pay for it. So as we're moving forward with this, we're looking at a couple of things like combining the EMS from the county and cross-training and finding some efficiencies there, and maybe being able to have the 24-hour coverage like we need, or just stay like it is and try to fund it. Now, the only way to fund this is going to be to go to the voters, a potential mill levy increase. Of course, nobody likes to be taxed additionally, but I think when we make the community understand our concerns about time of response to get to a fire or to be a backup on a medic call, either one, and how important it is that we have that coverage. And I'm sorry, I got it just an email. And so a couple of things here. The fire authority leadership would like to go ahead and bring these guys on. I've talked with Andy about that, and I am very concerned that you go to the voters for a mill levy increase, use some of the reserves that the fire authority has, because this is going to cost close to $500,000 a year between paying and benefits. And then all of a sudden, a year and a half from now, when it goes to the voters and they turn it down, then we've got people that are out of a job, basically. It goes back the other way. So the reason that I wanted to bring this to the attention of the council is I just wanted to keep you informed of what was going on with the fire authority and the potential of maybe seeing how we entertain this to our community and let them know what we're trying to do and how we're trying to give the full protection that our community deserves. Mike, you got anything else to add?
Yeah, along with those increases in funding, we've been talking also about potential restructuring, looking at the different options of going to a full Title 32 district. I'm sure some of you and most of you are all familiar with that. That would be a big, I don't know, vote that would have to go to the taxpayers. We've also explored or are exploring going to the county department and just merge the fire authority, what is the fire authority now, into a county department. We haven't heard back from the county, and all of this is very preliminary, but we are discussing other options. I think all of them come down to more funding. I know nobody wants to hear that, but it's actually, we've been running on the same mill equivalent since 2008, I believe. We have to look up the exact date, but it's been over a decade since we've increased funding to the fire authority. I really think the coverage has been lacking for like 15 years. I think we're about 10 to 15 years behind on fire staffing, and I think this is a time that we really need to look at increasing that funding. So right now, Idaho Springs pays what is 4.569 mils equivalent, because the Idaho Springs writes a check from their general fund. It actually matches the ESD, the county district at 4.569. So other fire departments in our area have an average of 9 mils going to their fire department. Evergreen, for example, has 12.243 mils. So I feel that we're severely underfunding our fire department, and I think it's time that we need to discuss. I think we're here tonight discussing, or hopefully having some conversation about how that increase is going to happen. So with the fire authority, the current IGA will expire in 2021. Is that correct, Mike?
I believe it, yes, 2021, yes.
So I think now is the time for at least Idaho Springs, or for us as board members, to get the feeling of the council on, what you think about that, or you think that there's no way that you're going to increase funding, or I guess letting you know that we're going to come at you with a pretty steep increase, or ask for a pretty steep increase in funding.
In some of our discussions, the Title 32, we were kind of scared away from. We were informed, or we were told that if we decided to go to a Title 32, and Title 32 would mean it would be an all-elected board, it'd be another layer of government, basically to be responsible. But also Henderson Mine said that they would opt out of being part of the district anymore. And when we looked at that, the mill levy went up so high that it was like, there's no way that this could happen. After doing some more research, Henderson actually could not do that until like 2023 or 2024. So we still have them that would have to be a part of this. This is just one way of reorganizing the district. We've got some other concepts that we're laying out but this conversation is basically to kind of update council of what Mike and I do with the fire authority and some of the changes that we may be presenting to our community and to the council to get support from. I've actually had talks with Chief before, Chief Malanka, about this, and and he said, if you're going to get 24/7 coverage, you're probably going to have to pay for it. And we're not talking about a full paid department. We're talking about, I think they were proposing 5 or 6 new positions, and with what we call shifters that come from other departments that come up here and they stay the night for 1 or 2 nights and help out as well, that we can get that 24/7 coverage, have somebody at our station here in Idaho Springs, full-time overnight, ready to jump on an apparatus, a truck, and get to a call as fast as possible within our community. Of course, we're the biggest community. We have the most calls here. And you probably didn't know this either. Most of the calls really go out on I-70. We have, knock on wood, we have had very few to no structure fires. The fire authority does a lot of the swift water rescue. That's rafters that when the raft tips over, they're out there fishing these people out of the river. And then a lot of backup medical calls. And that's the other thing that we feel we can find some efficiencies with is cross training, so that we have a fire staff that has an EMT and vice versa, EMT that knows and has and been trained to do some firefighting skills as well. And we're not talking about somebody from EMS, unless they wanted to actually be a person that would go into a building, an entry firefighter, going in and fighting a fire from the inside, but they could roll up hoses, they could, hook up to the trucks, and they could be trained to drive the apparatus as well. So I just wanted to kind of bring that forward to anybody. Does anybody, John, I know John Curtis, you've been part of fire departments before. Do you have anything, or anybody else like to make any comments or suggestions?
How many volunteers do we have now?
I think the last roster we had seen had 40 on the roster, but we were also told a lot of those people with the coronavirus have kind of dwindled away. And I think that we, as the city of Idaho Springs, we have one of the fewest volunteer staff here in the immediate city of Idaho Springs. Our assistant chief, Jeremy Jones, does live here. Who else is here, Mike? That would be response.
Boy, I'm looking for that roster right now. Give me a sec.
While Mike's looking for that, does anybody else have any thoughts or questions, support of this idea? Is this something that we shouldn't entertain to try to present to our community, or just any other thoughts?
Well, I agree we need to do a millage increase, but you're talking quite a bit. I mean, what do you say? We're at 7. We need to go up to 12.
Yeah, we're at 4.5. And
4.5, yeah.
The average of our neighboring fire departments that are similar to us is 9.09.
So it's 5 mils.
Yeah, almost. It's about doubling it.
Right.
Eventually.
So would we do it on a step level every year or every couple of years, increase it?
I think that would be the most palatable way to do that. Obviously, none of that has been hashed out yet, and I'm going to have to cross your desk before it actually happens. But in my visualization of what would need to happen to get to that level, I don't think Idaho Springs could afford doubling something in 1 year. I imagine it would be throughout the term of the IGA, what I would imagine it would end up being.
You find that roster yet, Mike?
Yeah, I got a fairly old one, and it's broken down into locals are really, we only have 16 people that live in the county that are volunteering. And I think it's only 4 from Idaho Springs on this roster that I'm looking at.
And that's been troublesome to Mike and I for quite some time now. And we as a community deserve, you know, as good a service as we can have provided. And, you know, to look at that, we haven't had a mill levy increase since back in you say early 2000, Mike, is when it
Yeah, I
was.
think it was around 2008.
So, you know, we're at 12, almost 13 years. And I will say that we've done a relatively good job at the fire authority. All of our trucks and apparatus are pretty new, so we don't have an immediate need for replacing those. Our chief is supposed to be getting a replacement chart so we can keep up with replacing apparatus and equipment as needed. Just like everything else, firefighting, you know, they're just like water and wastewater. You know, it's ever so changing. The equipment and everything changes, and you have to keep up with the times. And we've done a good job of doing that.
I'm wondering, Mike, if any other entities like Georgetown or, Empire Silver Plume have had this discussion yet.
Well, at our last meeting, that's what this is about, is everybody was supposed to go back to their relative communities, talk with their boards about it, and start having this discussion. Of course, people like Empire, you know, with very little sales tax revenue, and that's pretty much what they run on there. Silver Plume, you know, it's going to be difficult for them to chew on that mill levy increase, but they're going to present it anyway to their boards. Georgetown may be a little bit different, but you also have a group up in Georgetown that can be a little tough as well. So yeah, this is our first step, Bob, to start talking to all the ESD and the municipalities that have skin in the game.
Yeah, well, it's a necessary discussion. I'm convinced of that, and need to do something. And I think maybe we'll distill it out a little better, obviously.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Mike, you were talking about a live-in person at our current headquarters or fire department. We don't have that capability, do we?
No, we could actually have, and Chief might be able to speak on this a little bit better, but there is space there. Somebody can put a cot in there. I did ask the question a couple of meetings ago about when, you know, we're still I still see that this firehouse in Idaho Springs, the new one over on 103, is going to happen. And that would be the new station that they would be housed out of, as far as being the new, we're Station 2. Station 1 is up in Dumont. So this would be the new, what I would call the new Station 1, the primary station where all the business takes place at our new station here. So there is a way. Chief, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, the above the eastern bays, there's a large area. It was used as a classroom and a gathering place. It does have a bathroom with a shower, and it does have a full kitchen. Of course, everything needs to be upgraded. The space is very rarely used. So with, you know, some modifications, you know, any firefighter that stays there needs a little bit of privacy. And, you know, if we were to convert that into a living quarter with, you know, separate dorm rooms for the firefighters, we'd certainly have to secure that space so people can't just wander up and use that restroom. So it's possible to do it. It's not a major overhaul. The question is all about timing. You know, what are we looking at in regard to, you know, when they're going to vacate that facility and move into their next building. So if it's going to be a little drawn out, I'd recommend that not a great deal of money is expended on it. I'll tell you this, that periodically firefighters do sleep in the sort of like the lounge area of the station. You'll see some of those folks from time to time. That happens a little less frequently now. So yeah, there's potential there. If we are intending to repurpose that building for either Public Works or the police department, then, we might consider if we do install dorm rooms that they can be easily repurposed as offices. So that's food for thought.
All right. Andy, do you have any comments that you'd like to make before we move on and let Mike go?
No, I think you covered most of it, Mayor. Just briefly, there was there was a discussion, at least one work session with Clear Creek County earlier this year before the coronavirus hit, to talk about the possibility of some type of merger or closer working relationship between the county EMS and the fire authority. And that, has been suspended for understandable reasons, but I'd like to see that conversation started again, because as the mayor indicated, there is an opportunity, I think, to have at the very least, a closer working relationship between those two organizations, and also possibly some cross training, because the EMS is mostly paid. You have a paid crew on duty in Idaho Springs, a paid crew on duty for EMS in Georgetown. So you already have 24-hour first responder staffing on the EMS side in both Idaho Springs and Georgetown. Sometimes there's an additional ambulance on duty in the busy season. And as the mayor indicated, it's mostly volunteer on the fire side. So it just seems to make sense if you had one way you have a mostly volunteer department start transition to part paid is ensure you have paid drivers on 24/7. For instance, in Idaho Springs, you could have a person who is qualified to operate the apparatus, and that way you can get the vehicle on the road on a timely basis with or without volunteers, and then the volunteers can congregate as they're available on the scene. And one other thing to remember is fires aren't that frequent, but they're very labor intensive, and it's a long time until you get any sort of automatic or mutual aid. And we're fortunate to have that from Central City and Evergreen and other entities, but it takes time to get them there. So what we're really talking is a low frequency, high risk event. And with a fire where you need, 15, 20 people ideally, and we don't have nearly that, I'm sure, on most calls, at least not initially. So I just think, as the mayor indicated, I think the time, and Mike, I think the timing is right to have this conversation with the IGA for the fire authority coming up next year. And I think we really need to talk seriously about it. I think there needs to be a work group meeting on it to look at all different options for how it might be organized, how we might work together into the future.
Yeah, just want to bring it in because I know it's getting to be budget season again. If we were to add those numbers, or add those employees, those 6 employees that the chief of the fire department was talking about, he says it would cost 6.81 mils to sustain those 6 people. That would roughly mean a $58,000 increase in the Idaho Springs contribution to fund that immediately. So it would go from $120,000 a year that you're currently paying to $178,864 at a minimum to bring those 6 people on. So about $58,000 increase if we all decide to do it, just to have that number up.
Oh, you're mute, Mike.
Mayor, you're on mute.
Thanks.
It was a great speech.
Hey, thanks, Mike, for being on with us tonight. Thanks for your time being on that board with me and helping represent Idaho Springs, and appreciate it very much. You're welcome to stay on for the rest of the meeting, or you can go have a beer.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service. I know it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, let's move on to, we're going to talk real quick about the coronavirus relief funding proposal. Did everybody have a chance to take a look at that? And did you have any thoughts of or questions that I might be able to answer and clarify for you? I think the big thing that we're looking at is, so the way that this CARES Act played out Um, the way that that it was being presented to the federal level was that municipalities would get some money, the counties would get some money, and we would be based on our population. That barely passed the House, and it failed in the Senate, and it ended up that the funding was going to go to the counties. So the counties are responsible for doing disbursements to the municipalities and use this money to help do the things that we need to be doing during this time of recovery. So the kind of the different levels. Well, I'll go back a little bit. I'm going to let Andy and John talk about. They were on the working group with this and turning in and making a list of the expenditures we've had that has been associated with this epidemic. And we turned that in, and I'm going to let John Kane and Andy speak a little bit how they came up with this number and what they presented to the county commissioners.
Sure. This funding is part of the funding that the state of Colorado received under the CARES Act. And there's a lot of discussion at the state level about how it would be distributed. Ultimately, what was decided is, as the mayor said, it would be distributed to the county, but the counties are required to coordinate with their municipalities as far as how the money is distributed. So it's really up to us as Clear Creek County working together to come up with a proposal, and that's what this is. So the county has taken the lead on it. George Marlin has been leading the effort. Each jurisdiction was asked to provide a couple representatives to work on a draft proposal. And this is a couple iterations along of the proposal that was brought to council. And the main purpose of the CARES Act funding is to reimburse actual expenses. And our big challenge in Idaho Springs, as you all know, is mainly revenue reduction. And we have incurred some expenses, which you'll see on, I believe it's your page 2, which we submitted, and this is a few weeks old, the $47,000 number. Those are actual expenses that police and public works submitted and admins submitted, and we gave to the county so they could take a look at what the jurisdictions in Clear Creek County have actually incurred in the way of expenses. And then it's not limited to just actual expenses, but we have freedom as a county to use this funding as we see fit for recovery. And that can be, backfilling our actual expenses. It's really not geared towards revenue reduction, which I know is a big challenge for particularly municipalities that are sales tax focused. But a big part of this proposal is providing further assistance to businesses. That is the lion's share of this funding under this proposal is suggested it would go back to businesses, perhaps to pay off, reduce some of their debt that they have incurred through loans through the Economic and Community Development Corporation. One thing and I think that's laudable. I think we're all on board with that. When I'm done here, John may want to chime in. But and John, of course, works part of his time, as you all know, with the Economic Development Corporation. And I want to give another accolade to John Kane for all the work he has done above and beyond to help with getting the loan funding in the past few months out from the ECDC and out to the businesses to really help them survive. And he put in extra time on that. And he had my blessing and the mayor's blessing to do that because this was critical to survival of some businesses, a lot of the businesses, but particularly some in great need. So it seems to make sense to us that the lion's share of this funding be used to further help businesses, particularly as we get into the fall. So one thing to keep in mind, a couple important points to keep in mind. So I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but we have to have this proposal. It's coming through DOLA, so we have to get this proposal back to DOLA by the end of this month, June 30th. So we're on very tight turnaround on this. And that's part of the reason we broke it out to a small work group to hash it out, try to come up with a proposal that we all can live with, the municipalities and the county, bring it to our governing body, which we're doing tonight, get any thoughts you have. We're gonna have one more meeting, as I understand it, in this process this week, and then we'll have to get it all finalized to get it back to DOLA. So there's a quick response. And we know what DOLA is looking for in the state is that we have been working together collaboratively with the county, which I think we are. Obviously, we all have our interests we're looking out for. But I think we've come up with a pretty good proposal, and want to get your thoughts on that. The other thing to remember is this money, this funding has to be expended by the end of this year. So even though, and John can speak to this, we have concerns about where the businesses are going to be in the winter. You know, of course, we've got the summer, we got the high season now, we're trying to make the most of it, but as things slow down and get in the fall, get in the winter, the weather's not as nice, carrying businesses through the winter. So that's why, since the money has to be expended before the end of the year, it makes sense to us to maybe think about further assistance to the businesses and reducing their debt. We're assuming there is not another spike and, you know, things are shutting down again. We're just saying if we continue on as we are. So I better stop there, but that's kind of my thoughts. John, do you have any thoughts you want to add to that?
I think that about covers it. We do know that we're going to be seeing impacts to this of the business community for probably at least 18 months. And so we want to make sure, you know, right now is the time when everybody gets the money to make it through the year, coming up in July especially. And so we just want to make sure that we remember that, especially as we move into maybe another phase of the pandemic, or just, you know, as a slow ramp up of tourism happens. You know, we know the tourism industry may be one of the last ones to recover. So that was kind of one of the things that we've been thinking about, is how we can make that money go farther in the future and make sure that we can still help where we need to be helping at the EDC.
All right, thanks, John. And just to let the council know also, this is the second proposal. The first proposal had a lot of things that we didn't like in it, and they did rework it. I still have a problem with Idaho Springs spending over $47,000 and only getting reimbursed $25,000, and they're showing other communities that didn't have the what their costs that they submitted, they're actually getting more money than they actually expended. So that's been kind of one of my battles. It has been said that some of the things that we reported, probably like the picnic benches, shouldn't fall under that. We're still gonna, and I'm still gonna push on the county commissioners and George to try to give more reimbursement to us. The other thing, I understand the $550 for business support, the $50,000 for individual support, kind of like what we did with that $25,000 grant. I think that's great. I still have some questions about the civic institutions. If you'd seen on there, it called out 3. One was our visitor center. The Heritage Center is the visitor center up in Georgetown, but it also had the Elks Lodge on there. And I'm just not quite sure how the Elks Lodge would be a civic institution and would deserve or wouldn't be someone that would get some of this money. So I'm gonna continue to push on that. Like Andy said, we have to have this proposal back to DOLA by the end of the month, and we'll continue to put the hammer down on them. And what I'll say is get what Idaho Springs deserves to be reimbursed, and help take the rest of that money and allocate it in a way that's going to help our businesses and our residents of our community. So does anybody else have any questions? Or anything?
I have a question for Andy and John. If that money's earmarked to pay off the business debt, is that going to be dispersed directly to the lender, or will that be given to the business owner and it's their responsibility to pay it towards the debt?
John, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, and one thing is the CCEDC board has not discussed that issue yet, so I wouldn't want to speak for them. I do think that when you think about the money that we used for this program, it was out of our revolved fund. That's not CDBG tax dollars. That's dollars that have already been revolved through the program. So there's less federal requirements on what happens there. But that's also our money that we use for everything. So if we were to forgive that debt completely, it would restock that fund, which would have the benefit of making sure that that money can be used past December 30th. But also it would make sure that some of our other programs that we use to fund that program, which now, those are unsecured loans. And so there's there's really no recourse if they default anyway. It would make sure that we still have access to that money, because it'd probably take a couple of years at least to build that up again through the program.
And like John said, our board at the Economic Development will be meeting this week, and that will be one of our topics. They're also looking to see if the Economic Development would be the admin on that money and keep up with it. Also, part of this 831,000 is hiring a part-time or a 6-month position at the rate of about $40,000 plus benefits. The commissioners feel that to keep up with that and do all the reporting back to DOLA and all the things that's going to go along with it is going to be a kind of a full-time position for the next 6 months. So we're keeping an eye on that. Bob, do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, well, the Development Corp is one of the lending institutions, but there are a number of others then, I'm assuming.
That people borrow money from to.
Yeah, right. That is eligible for reimbursement.
It's through the SBA. There's the EIDL program and the PPP program, which are both federal programs. The PPP program can be forgivable, but there are requirements for how much of the money is used on payroll.
Okay.
The EIDL program was a difficult task administratively for how it was set up from Congress, and it's just starting to hit people right now. It took a long time to get that money, and there's some talk that it could be, it's complicated on that one, but yes, the SBA did do some lending on these programs as well.
Well, anyway, I think I'll use the same term Andy did. I think it's laudable for sure. Obviously, the sales tax is exactly. We're totally. We have identical goals with businesses as a city to keep the sales going, and I think this is. It's also simple relative to probably many other schemes we could come up with, and considering the short time, it just makes sense. I think at every level.
Okay, anybody else like to, any comments? Chuck?
Here, I thought this was very thoughtful, and it just makes sense that most of the money is targeted for our small businesses, but I'm going to have to agree with you when we have actually documented $47,000 of cost as a city and are looking at $25,000 in reimbursement. That's got to get changed.
And that would have to say paying back more than the expenses takes it out of the definition of reimbursement for the
Thank
other
you, Bob.
municipalities.
You're exactly right.
Agreed. Okay, I'll keep pushing on them. Any other council member like to make any comments? All right. We're gonna go now to the community development planner and water and wastewater superintendent position.
Oh, here we go.
John Curtis has kind of been on this, especially with the water and wastewater. And I think that we've had a couple of council members mention the cost of the contract planner that we've been using and how that money and those expenses are running up. One thing I do need to clarify about that is the developers will actually, and I don't have the formula of it, but they will be actually responsible to reimburse some of that money as well. So the $40,000 that we spend is not all on the backs of the city of Idaho Springs. Some of this will be coming back from the developers that have used the planner as well. But with that, I believe that I would like to see both positions being advertised and start looking for some permanent people in there to continue on, so we're not contracting anything. I like that Alan was out and he talked to the community, was available. You know, somebody could walk in or call, he could walk outside and he would be with them. He could walk out on the site. And I think that's really what we need at this time, is somebody to really be on top of it and engaged with the community as we move forward. As of right now, we don't have any projects except the Argo that we've been seeing. 2800 Minor is kind of at a standstill right now. The sale of the football field and bus barn and the school is kind of on a hold right now, but we know that those are going to start getting some legs and some more forward moving on that in the very near future. Water and wastewater, we are, John, you can have it. We're pretty much done with project one. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. Project
He's
2
in
will
the
start soon.
right now, which is okay. He's good at it. Yeah.
Mary Jane, there you go. So as we move on, of course, ideally having somebody that is familiar with that plant, you know, as it's being built and the operation of it. There's some new technology that even people that are going to be applying have not seen, that they need to be boots on the ground, as John Curtis would say, be involved in the next project 2 as it moves along, and have somebody there. We do have a couple of employees at the water and wastewater that may apply as well. And this would be open up for anybody to apply. So they, if they feel the desire that they would like to take the superintendent role over, more power to them. And I encourage them to send a resume in as well. I know that we have not gotten into the bad times yet with our sales tax revenue. We still don't know by the end of August what the city's going to look like. We've done a really good job of not furloughing or laying off anybody. We should all be proud and on that. And I'm hoping that we can continue that, you know, that goal of that not happening. So I just kind of want to open it up to any thoughts about go ahead and advertising for this position and getting some permanent department heads in here.
Yeah, I believe, I mean, right now, normally you had 4 people doing the job. Now you only have 3. Ramey probably just fills out the paperwork. I don't know what else he does down there, so I'm just concerned about stressing out the 3 operators.
Any other council members want to weigh in?
I agree with John. I think by all means, we should advertise for the position.
Yeah, I concur.
Okay. Everybody's shaking their head. Yeah, let's go ahead and get it out there. And in the past, when we hired the chief and we hired Andy, we did an executive search firm. I don't think that I would like to at least entertain this, letting us do it without involving a executive search firm. That did cost us some money, but of course we got the cream of the crop in both departments. So I saw a smile from both of them simultaneously. So,
I concur.
but Alan, we did that in-house, and I think Alan brought a lot of knowledge to the table. Something that the city hasn't seen. We never had a staff planner on. It was always contract throughout the years. So we have something to kind of gauge a new employee on and what he was doing, you know, and we could also gauge that on some of the things that maybe we didn't like, how it was being handled. So with everybody being on board, Andy, and maybe John, if you want to help with both Johns, help with the job description and look at the job description and make sure that we have everything in there before we advertise that. And who is on our employee committee? Andy,
I am.
So John's already and Scott's on there. So I think I might be on it too.
And Mayor, just so you know, we were starting to, before coronavirus hit, we did have a personnel committee meeting, and we did start working on the job description for water wastewater superintendent. So that we already got some input on that. So it's we're a step ahead here on this, so we can just pick up this process again for both positions and get them advertised soon.
Okay. Everybody's okay with that? Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right, great. We got a few more minutes. I'm gonna get down. We can do this, I'm sure, in the time we have. The I-70 collaborative effort contribution. What the collaborative effort is, I've said on that and represent Idaho Springs. This is about the I-70 corridor from Golden to Eagle County. This is a group that really puts the pressure and make sure, and I'll say it, that to keep CDOT in line. You know, years and years ago, CDOT, and perfect example, when they built I-70 through Idaho Springs, they basically just wiped out a quarter of the town and built it. Then some things happened, and now there's a much longer and lengthy process before projects can not only be entertained, but be approved. And this group does that. There's something called the Record of Decision. This came out back in the early 2000s. And Mary Jane's on here. She's been a part of the collaborative effort forever. I think from the very first day of it. And it's a lot of information. Right now we are going through what's called a ROD 2020 reassessment. And what we decided was that we needed an outside resource to kind of help us get through number 3 and number 4, number 5, I believe it is, of this process. And what the collaborative effort is asking is some contributions from each member organization to help pay for I believe it's $10,000. Is that correct, Mary Jane? I'm going to refer to you because you're part of the collaborative effort also.
Yeah, the total is 10,000. So, and that's what the facilitator is charging to get us to the ultimate step in the implementation of the collaborative effort. So yes,
So
everybody, all the stakeholders on the corridor are contributing.
So they're asking either at a $500 or $1,000 level. I know that with our budget here in Idaho Springs and still the unknowns coming, I think it's well worth putting in and helping us get the facilitator for this group and moving this thing along. Like I said, it's very in depth, lots of talk. We had a subcommittee here in Idaho Springs with other members of the CE come in and discuss how to move forward. And we did a really good job on that. Now we have some more steps to go and we just need to come up with some funding. So what I'm asking council is, would you support a $500 or $1,000 contribution to help pay for the facilitator?
And if you have questions of me, I got a lot of history.
Council members?
Yeah, I guess my only comment is, proportional. Well, not. I'm sure there are a number of other entities that would be contributing, but I would have to say that we're squeezed into the valley so close to I-70 that I would think even $1,000 level would help, but I would offer 500 first. I don't know, Mary Jane, what do you think in terms of funding?
Well, I think they're just looking for the token from everybody to buy in.
Okay.
And I think 500 is fine.
Okay.
And I would support even, I think this is a group that it's a very important to make sure that like I said, the feet are held to the ground of CDOT. They have to collaborate with us, the context sensitive solutions. And we've done a really good job. Of course, some of these meetings get very long.
So I was on a meeting this morning with FHWA, CDOT, County Commissioner from Eagle, and Randy Wheelock and Greg Hall from Vail. And we're talking about, we interviewed a couple of the facilitators, and we've made such a difference in what happens here that this is, and Idaho Springs and Clear Creek County have like 4-5 seats out of 30. So we have a big say, and that's why we're getting mostly what we want.
Is everybody okay with making a contribution of $500 to the CE and the facilitator?
Mayor, I would be for that.
Yep, I'm okay with it.
I am as well.
Okay. All right. I will let co-chair Randy Wheelock know later this evening that we'll have a $500 contribution to that effort. Thanks, everybody. Last on the work session, we got 3 minutes. Recovery Task Force. We had our meeting today. We're seeing a lot of things that are going on downtown. I think everybody's very pleased of how things are working at this point. Through this effort, there's been some asks that some of the businesses wanted to do. There's some that we went ahead and allowed, but there's also some that we put a hard no on, said, this is not a good idea. We shouldn't do it. And with input from the chief, public safety and emergency response is primary and number one to this being successful. We don't want to get in a position that we need to get an ambulance in there, and because of the way we set it up, it can't happen. And we lose somebody because they couldn't get to the call that fast. Everybody is still not at 100%. 100% business. They have loosened up a little bit, and now the capacity at this point can be up to 100 people in a building, as long as it doesn't exceed the 50% rule. So if they've got 300 seats, they can have 100 people in there, but they still have to abide by the 6-foot rule and the social distancing. But I think after this weekend, people are saying they're starting to see people come in. People like it. It was busy, and we know we're going to get busier from here on out, because this is, right after Father's Day is when our busiest times are, all the way through mid-August. So anything else on that, Andy, that we want to update?
I think you covered it, Mayor.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right. It's 7 o'clock. Everybody needs to take about a 4-minute break, and we'll get back on our regular meeting at about 5 minutes after. John, do we need to sign out or sign back in? Or are we good to go?
You're good.
Okay. All right, it looks like we have everybody back. All right. We got everybody. There's Bob and Art. Okay. It is 7 o'clock. I'm sorry, 7:05. This is June 22nd. I guess I need to call my sister. It's her birthday. 7:05, our regular schedule of city council, Idaho Springs. Can I have a roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Here.
Scott Pennell,
Here.
Chuck Harmon,
Here.
Bob Boland,
He's here.
John Curtis,
Here,
Art Cacavelli,
Here,
Jim Clark.
All right, please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge the allegiance
To the
flag
flag
of the United
United
States
States of America,
and
To the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we have an agenda in front of us. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve the agenda for the June 22nd, 2020 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
We got, who was that? Bob? We got Chuck first, Bob second.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand. All right, motion passes. Does anybody feel they have a conflict of interest tonight? I do. I will not be, I'll let Bob take over under the ordinance second reading. And then I'll get back in.
And I have a conflict for resolutions item B. I'll recuse myself.
Okay, thank you, Bob. All right, anybody else? All right, we'll move to the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from June 8th, 2020.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Got Scott second. Discussion. Is there anything in the minutes that you saw that need to be clarified or was incorrect?
They look fine.
All right. With that, all in favor, raise your hands. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We will now move down to the approval of the bills. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the bills to June 22nd, 2020.
Do I have a second?
I second.
And Art second. We got Scott and Art. Discussion. Is there anything in the bills that we need to have our department heads or myself to clarify? All right. Nothing from anybody tonight?
Nope.
Okay. Can I have roll call, please, Diane? You're on. Diane, are you there?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
yes,
Art
Yes.
All right. Did we have anybody call in with unscheduled public comment?
No, sir.
All right, no public comment, no community development, city attorney's not with us. We'll move to resolutions, and Bob will recuse himself from this resolution. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve resolution number 18, series 2020, a resolution finding an annexation petition submitted by Mary Jane Lovely to annex approximately 11.15 acres of property within section 25, township 3 south, range 73 west of the 6th principal meridian in Clear Creek County, Colorado, including the ABE, motor, and queen loads, and a portion of the alpha load to be substantially compliant with CRS 31-12-107, parentheses 1, and setting a public hearing on the petition to consider annexation of the property.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We've got Chuck and Scott. Discussion. I just let you know that this is not a public hearing. Obviously, this is just being able to set a public hearing on the petition to consider the annexation. Hey, any more discussion?
We're just gonna talk about the annexation, not the wastewater and water stuff.
No, that's not what this resolution is, just allowing this.
Right, okay. No, I mean, the rest of the stuff was in here, so, okay.
All right.
So is this property adjoining to the other city property? Already it's adjoining, or?
You want me to answer that, Mike?
Yes, please.
Or Travis, do you want to answer that?
Hello, Councilman. Hello, everyone. Yeah, that's fine. Yes, it is all adjoining, and part of the application submittal that you guys will be reviewing has an annexation map that outlines the amount of contiguity to already annexed city property. So yes.
So a little bit of history for Art's sake and Chuck's sake. When we annexed the properties back when we did the planned development, we had title to the property, but not title soon enough to annex it. So there's 2 claims that are being annexed as a part of this annexation, as well as the one that we just acquired in March. So this is just the ongoing annexation for the Virginia Canyon Mountain Park completion.
Okay, any more discussion, council?
Will this be all the annexations?
For this project,
Okay,
Yes.
All right. Okay, can I have roll call, please?
Michael Hillman,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Scott Boland, John Curtis,
yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes,
Okay. Bob, can you come back in now?
Sorry, Mayor, or Diane, who seconded that?
Scott Pennell.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, Jan, you can have Bob come back in now. Thank you.
Thank
and
you,
now the
Councilman.
clock starts ticking.
All right, we don't have any ordinance first readings. Bob, I'm gonna let you take over for the next the second.
Okay, unmuted here. Hang on just a moment. All right, yeah, this item's an ordinance number 7 for series 2020. And if we get a motion to pass that and second, then we'll discuss.
I'll move to approve. Are you talking ordinance number 6, right, Bob?
Let's see, is 6 or
On the
Six,
agenda,
Bob.
it says 6. On the ordinance, it
Yeah.
says 7.
Okay, so it's number 7 or number 6?
We look real quick. My mistake.
Why don't you go ahead and read it, Scott, and then we'll
Okay.
put a number on it.
I move to approve ordinance number 6, series 2020, an ordinance authorizing the reimbursement of the authorized expenses of Mayor Hillman related to the April 7th, 2020 mayoral recall election in accordance with CRS 31-4-504.5.
Second.
It is
second.
ordinance number 7.
Oh, it is 7. Okay. So
I'll amend that to ordinance number 7.
Second.
Okay.
okay, great. All right. Discussion, please. All right. No discussion then. I would say we need roll call. Diane?
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Chuck Harmon,
Yes.
Bob Boland,
Yes.
John Curtis,
Yes.
Art Cacavelli,
Yes.
All right. Motion passes unanimously, so we shall return back to the mayor.
All right. And again, I'd like to thank all council members for approving the ordinance. Means a lot. Okay, let's move down to city administrator. Andy?
Mayor and council, you have my,
Things and go ahead.
okay, you have my report with no request for action.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Andy? One thing I didn't mention in our work session, the school district, John's going to have hopefully the fencing over at the school properties for the employee parking over there on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll have that up and running on Wednesday. So thanks, John. All right, city clerk. Diane.
Mayor and Council, you have my staff report for your review with no request for action.
Anybody have any questions for Diane?
You know, I have a general question, and I guess maybe more for John, probably, but I'm just wondering how our census count is going in the city.
John?
Changing the subject here totally, but
Not to be negative about it, but it's not going well. We've kind of stalled out. The county has some efforts that they're going to engage in the future, like in the next few months. The census was extended till October, so there will be people from the census coming to talk to people who they think have not been counted. The county's going to get some big light up signs to place in the county that say, do your census. But I think what we're running into is people not seeing that the count is directly tied to how much money comes back to the county. And so there's the sense of urgency there is just not what it should be. I believe we're at like 23% for the city. That's not maybe exact, but it's somewhere in that range. And so this is something that we really need to work on at the city and county level, just to ensure that our neighbors are having an opportunity to be counted for the effort.
Is there a volunteer base out there for that, John?
There's some people that have been going out and kind of being census ambassadors lately. That seems to have been fairly effective. I have a Kindle Fire here at City Hall that was originally intended to be used for people who didn't have internet access to fill out the census, since you either have to call or do it online. It's still available. I can sanitize that thing and have it available to people too. So anything we can do just to get people to fill it out would be great at this point. Danielle from the police department did a really great job. She had to call 600 people to fill out the census over the last few weeks. And it was awesome that she was able to do that. And I know she had some really good results from that too. So we should all be thankful to her as well.
That's amazing.
yeah, it is. Okay, well, thank you.
Can you access the base where it shows who's filled it out at which address, John?
Yeah, the county has been sending out updates on that. I could try to locate the email really quick if you guys want, and I could give it to Andy to send out or something to that effect.
That'd be interesting.
Okay, well, I sort of took a left turn on the subject there, Mike. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
To the PD chief.
If you would bear with me for 1 second, we just got a code red from the dispatch center. Okay, it just refers to possible contamination of Clear Creek at Urad Reservoir. So, all right, it doesn't affect us immediately. I apologize. So, first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to rescind my request for action regarding the speed limit on Wall Street. What we've determined, we thought we could simply adjust that speed limit through action, but it turns out that we actually have to amend the ordinance. So I'll go to work on that. Very briefly, the reason several residents have asked for that reduction in speed is on the west end of Wall, it's very narrow. And if you've ever driven it, you might know there's several walls that there's really no, well, they're drops is what they are. They drop into people's backyards. So several residents on the street think it might be safer if the speed limit's reduced. I think it would behoove us to look at that. So I'll be doing a little bit more research on that and I'll report back. 283 calls of service between the 6th and the 17th. That's 11 days. And surprisingly, with the drop of calls for service, that brief drop, we're still at where we were last year about this time with 3,160 calls for service, keeping in mind that we have one officer on light duty. So, you know, the workload is pretty high. Really nothing else to report other than, of course, we posted our significant events. One of the things I started doing was including our response times. And our response times to incidents in the city are outstanding. During this period, a critical incident, our longest response time was 5 minutes. And that was for a cold theft. So any of the calls that involve violence, the officers are in there in 1 to 3 minutes, which I think that is hard for any other department to match.
Right.
If I noticed your 1 minute and 3 minute calls, that was pretty amazing. And I want you to know that my neighbors that live back on Wall Street would absolutely agree to this speed limit adjustment. And I think that's a really good move, especially for some of the elderly residents on Wall Street.
So we'll move forward on that, and hopefully I'll have that drafted for an amendment to the ordinance by the next time we meet.
All right. Any other questions for the chief?
Just to comment, that response time is absolutely amazing, Chris. I'm stunned, actually. Yay.
All right. Thanks, chief. And we'll get down to John Bornoni. Last but certainly not least, John.
Mayor and council, just a couple of updates. The water line at Riverside has been repaired. The water production dropped dramatically. We're very close to matching the influent at the sewer plant as far as the output of the water treatment plant. So that was the big leak that we've been looking for quite some time. They repaired a sewer line on Wall Street or Virginia Street today that was causing the residents a little bit of issues, and they took really good care of that. Very little disruption to service and to the street. So that was great there. Minor street closure, obviously we got all the barricades out, got the flowers out. We put picnic tables out. We've done numerous picnic tables. And the parking lot, if they don't call again, I should have the fence tomorrow, and hopefully it will be open tomorrow afternoon. So we'll see from there. CDOT, they're working in the parking lot between 15th and 17th, supposedly at night, to get the fiber conduit ran through the parking lot and boring most of that. And then also they will start My understanding is crossing the interstate with the sewer before too long also. So that'll mean some lane closures possibly at night and the 240 exit closure for a short period of time also. Other than that, that's about it.
Striping looks good in the parking lot.
Yeah, it should work well.
All right, any other questions for John?
What's going on?
As always, thanks department heads for keeping us updated on what's going on with your reports and answering the questions that we have for you. Everybody's doing a great job, and it's a pleasure to have you working for the city.
Hey,
With that-
Mayor.
Yes.
On the police department on the agenda, it's asking for an action to change that Wall Street speed limit. Is that something we're doing later?
Well, we have to do it by ordinance because we're gonna have
He
to,
rescinded the request.
so we'll have to wait to do that.
Okay.
Art, do you have something?
I was just saying he rescinded that request. Chief did, right, Chief?
Okay. With that, good meeting tonight, everybody. John Kane's got something.
Yeah,
He's gonna-
can I found those census results. It actually jumped last week. So I was just gonna show you guys really fast. We doubled there. Here's the results. Can you see there? We're at 46%. We had a jump almost double in the last week. So actually we're doing a little bit better than I thought. This is available on the county website, these charts, and she updates them. She tries to update them daily. So this is pretty accurate, up to date information.
What's the percentage statewide?
64% statewide.
64. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your evening and have a good night.
Good night, everyone.